Queens, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. Today is Saturday. It's an easy breezy day. I ran all my errands and I am going out for a drink with a friend, and so I just wanted to, quickly check in with you, see how your weekend started. I hope that you're enjoying yourselves and spending time with, your loved ones. Um, Today while I was getting ready, I was playing some YouTube videos and I had forgotten that that show The View. Yet no, not The View, The Real. The Real ended, I think, a week and a half ago or something like that. So I started watching some videos because I love The Real. A lot of the topics that they talk about is what I'm interested in, and that's why I used to watch it, right? So I used to TiVo I used to watch the videos on demand with my mom at times, last year. When I would get home, I would watch it, or on the weekends, I would binge watch. And so, anyway, so I was saddened to hear that they had shut the production. And I loved that show because I thought that uh, panel of women was the most diverse on TV. But actually, no, I'm wrong because The View is pretty diverse. I love The View as well. But anyway, getting back to The Real. So I was watching a video and Lonnie posed a question to the group, and she asked, what is there something that you wish you had known, right? And so I think Jeannie Mai, she started speaking about her ex-husband, who apparently, I remember him cheating on her, and it was very public and it was very painful. And so she started crying. And so, as the women started comforting her, Lonnie said, if the relationship is not good, if a situation is not good for you, you should let it go. And you know when it's time to let go, and your gut will let you know. You get that gut feeling. You should listen to your intuition. And women, we have the gut feelings, and a lot of times when we're in certain situations or in certain relationships, we get those feelings that something's not right, but we stick with them. We stay in that situation. So how do you know when it's time to let go of those situations? Is it, and why do women stay? There's so many reasons why women don't listen to their intuition, and they should, right? But it's sometimes hard to get out of the situation. So for example, I give you an example. When I used to counsel women, I was a domestic violence counselor at one time. And it's so easy for people to judge, women who are in abused relationships because they don't know. No one knows what's in the pot except the people that are making the soup, right? So, when I counseled women, and I wouldn't mention a name in particular, but I'll just say it generally, one of the reasons why they would stay is for financial reasons. Their partner would abuse them financially, and so they didn't have enough money to run away or to escape or to flee. My organization helped with safety plans and things like that, and I can't divulge what a safety plan is here because everybody's safety plan is different. Every client's needs are different. But anyway, I remember while I was counseling certain women, they would tell me, I saw the red flags, I knew something wasn't right, but I stayed anyway. And then because they stayed, it made their situation harder to get out of, right? And that's something that they regretted. And then you have, other folks who are not in an abusive relationship, who are just not happy in a relationship. And they get that gut feeling that, you know what, this relationship is really not for me. I'm not happy. This person doesn't make me happy. Or this person doesn't love me. And, the female stays anyway. But it's hard to tell someone what to do because you're not living their life, right? You're not in their shoes. You can advise them. For example, as a counselor, I would be able to guide them based on information that I would read up on, that I would research. And of course, the clients that I had were predominantly immigrants, Latinas. And so I would provide them information, and guide them, and conduct workshops on financial literacy. I would secure ESL classes for them. I would accompany them to family court, or I would accompany them to see their immigration attorney and things like that. Always advocating for them. But anyway, getting back to the point. I think that if I had asked my former clients, is there something that you wish you had known? I don't think that they would be able to give me an answer. Excuse the music outside. My windows are open because I have no AC here in my room. So I think that they wouldn't know, how to answer that question. And it's not, I don't think that it has anything to do with, them not being intuitive, or them understanding what they like and what they don't like, or what they discovered in their partner, or anything like that. I just think that because they were in the situation, it's easy for people to pass judgment, right? When other folks are going through things, and it's hard for the person who's actually going through it to recognize what the issue is, because they're in the middle of it. It takes somebody from an outside perspective, to be able to either point it out, or guide them, right? I was in a situation once, and I'll share this. Years and years ago, I was studying for my master's degree in human services, and I just started these courses at night, and I believe the last class ended like about 8:30, and so I didn't want to take the train to my home that late at night, so I would call a cab. And just by I don't know if it's coincidence or it was planned by this person, but every night I would get the same, and it was only three nights a week. I would get the same taxi driver, and so he was very nice. Excuse me, I have to just finish my makeup. He was very nice, and we hit it off immediately. He was very funny. He was charming. He had a lot of stories. He used to love to talk. He was very, very, very personable. And so I remember he would pick me up 2 and 3 times a week, and he would drop me off. And then one day he said to me, Jessica, here's my phone number, my personal cell. Call me if you need me to pick you up. And I was like, oh, okay, no problem. And then, but I kept the number just in case, right? And then one day I went out, not to school. I went out to dinner, and I needed a cab, and I called him. And I was like, hi, this is Jessica. I don't know if you remember me. He was like, yeah, of course I remember you, the lady that lives in Queens, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah. I said, are you working tonight? And he was like, I am. And I said, well, I'm in Manhattan. Do you think you can pick me up? I'm at this location. He was like, absolutely. I can be there in 20 minutes. So that night, he drove me home from dinner. And when we got to my block, we were just having a great conversation. He was a lot older than me. And I remember him telling me that he had, children. He wasn't married. He lived alone here. He had a home in Dominican Republic. He was Dominican. And he was just like, trying to make ends meet here, but he was saving up to build a house over there, etc. Right? So anyway, we kept talking and stuff. And then after I gave him my number, he called me the next day. And he was like, I've been thinking about you. What do you think if we went out for coffee? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. So I went out for coffee with him, and we had a great time. Then he called me the next day. And I'm not the type of person that needs to speak to someone. Like, I don't have the need to speak to someone every single day. And first of all, I wasn't dating him, right? So my intuition, my gut was telling me, hey, why is he calling you all every single day? Like, you're not even dating him. Why is he calling you? But I didn't say anything. I didn't say, hey, do me a favor, don't call me every day. We can chat every now and then or whatever, right? Or we'll talk when you pick me up from school. But I didn't say that, even though my gut was like, something's not right. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, he kept calling me and calling me. And then one day he was like, Jessica, I really like you. Can I take you out, like on a date, like to dinner? And I said, well, okay, but not dinner. Why don't we do lunch? And so we went to lunch. And I remember I told him, let's do it in the neighborhood. And he was like, okay. And we just happened to run into my dad. Oh my goodness. My dad was so, I don't even want to say that he was mad, but he was like so disappointed because I introduced him. Obviously, I wasn't gonna ignore my dad when we ran into him. We ran into him. I introduced him, and then the gentleman and I went into the man and I went into the restaurant. And my dad, from what I understand, immediately called my mom and was like, "You better talk to your daughter. I don't know. I just met this man that she's having lunch with, and I don't like him. There's something about him that I just don't like." And men know men. Like there's no doubt about it. Just like women, we know each other. We can relate. We understand each other well. Men are the same, right? And so he was like, I just don't like him. I just said, she introduced us, but I just don't like him for her. Well, my mom was like, well, Jessica's a grown woman. She can make her own decisions, and we can't force her not to see people. She's single. She doesn't have any attachment. She has no children. She's not married. She works every day. She's in school. She's straight. Well, my dad was not happy, but he also let me know. I'm not. I don't know about him, and I still didn't pay attention. Well, I continued to see this man, even though I felt like he was going a little too fast. And then I started seeing a lot of red flags, and I think that those are the biggest indicators that you better run. Like you drop everything and you run. I remember having a conversation with him in the car. He used to drive, like back in that time, people would drive, like cabbies would drive, like Lincoln Continentals, those huge cars. And I remember he had a black one. And I was like, why don't you change your car? I don't know why I even told him. This is none of my business, right? And I was like, why don't you change your car? Get a more modern car. Get like a Jeep. And he was like, what kind of Jeep do you think I should get? And I said, I don't know. Get a white one. Because I used to have a white Camry, so I love white cars. And I was like, yeah, you should get a white Jeep. He was like, okay, I'll think about it. Boom, the next day, guess what he came to pick me up in? He came to pick me up in a white Jeep. And that was a red flag. I got this feeling in my stomach like, okay, he's trying too hard, or I don't know, but something doesn't feel. Sometimes men compliment you, right? Because they're very detail oriented, and if you mention something, like let's say for example, I say, my favorite flowers are white tulips, and let's say the man that I'm dating, on a Sunday, because I usually buy fresh flowers every weekend, and on a Sunday he goes and he picks up a bouquet of like white tulips. That's being thoughtful, right? But for some reason, I didn't think that this man was being thoughtful when he went and he got the white Jeep. I thought this guy was crazy and psycho, because a Jeep is very expensive. A car is very expensive. It's not like flowers. Flowers is what, $10? So when he picked me up in this white Jeep, I was like, what is this? He said, well, you said you wanted me to get a white Jeep, and, here we are. He was like, as a matter of fact, you want to drive it? And I was like, okay. I don't know what I was thinking, because I don't know where this man got this Jeep from. I mean, now, in hindsight, right, I'm very distrustful. I don't trust anybody. Not that I'm paranoid either, but I really didn't know this guy from all that well. Well, we went out a couple of times, and then I remember he said, "Oh, my friend is having, like lunch in their home. It's an older couple. They're celebrating their anniversary. Would you like to go as my date, as my plus one?" He said, and I said, "Okay, no problem." We went to the Heights, and and his friends were in fact having a celebration, and they had a huge spread, and there was music, and I had a great time. But as I was like dancing and eating and talking to people, I still had that feeling in my stomach, like, girl, you don't need to be here. Like, you can't be seeing him. Like, there was just this feeling of distrust, and I don't even know why I wasn't listening to my intuition. But anyway, that night, well, that afternoon, because it was a luncheon. That afternoon, he brought me back to Queens, and he was like, "Oh, well, I don't want this date to end. Would you like to do something else?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Oh, why don't we go back to my place?" And I was like, "No." And then he grabbed me by my arm, like very violently, and was like, "You sure you don't want to go with me?" And I said, "No." And I went like this. And then he pushed me. But he didn't push me like hard enough for me to fall. But he pushed me like, dismissive, right? And the minute he did that, I lost total respect for him. I said, first of all, and I told him this to his face that day in the middle of the street. I was like, "Don't you ever lay your hand on me. As a matter of fact, you know what? This is the last time you're going to see me. You'll never see me again." And he was like, "Oh, what are you talking about? We just have a disagreement. You've never had a disagreement before." And I was like, "First of all, I'm not dating you. You are not my boyfriend. And you have no right to force me or to try to intimidate me into doing something that I don't want to do. I said I didn't want to go to your place, and I'm not going. And now with this, I'm not going anywhere." And so the first thing that I thought about was like, I just need to get home. I need to be safe. And I'll never tell anybody this because, my parents have always been very protective, and my dad and my brother have always protected me. Well, they've always been overprotective with me, and so I was scared that they would do something to him. And so I never said anything. And years have passed, and my father still doesn't know, and my brother still doesn't know. So I never saw him again. And then I think a year after that, he called me, and it was the summertime. And he had the nerve to call me, and he called me from a different number. I didn't know it was him. So when I answered the phone, he was like, "Hey," he used to call me Estrella de what was it he used to call me? Mi estrella de cine, or my movie star. And he was like, "Oh, ¿cómo está mi estrella de cine?" Or in English, it would be like, "Oh, hey, how's my movie star?" And so I was like, I said his name, and I was like, "What are you doing? What are you calling me for?" He's like, "What do you mean? I just wanted to say hi. How you been? I haven't talked to you in like a year." And I was like, "Please don't call me again." Click. He called me again. And I said, "Listen, I'm going to ask you kindly not to call me again, or I'm going to file a police report." And he was like so confused. He sounded so confused, but I think he was delusional. He was like, "Oh, but we were good friends." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, you don't remember our last encounter? Okay, well, don't call me again." And I hung up. And from that moment, I was like, I will never go through this again. From the very beginning, when he first gave me his phone number, I was like, I don't know, because you always hear about, like, especially cabbies. I mean, let's be for real, right? You know, you hear that they have like multiple family. Like, that's what I've heard. Maybe it's not true, but that's what I've heard, that they have multiple families. They have a family in their home countries, and then they have a family or a girlfriend here in the States. And so I was always weary about that. And in all honesty, I'm not the type of person that, if you want to be my friend, or if you want to build a friendship, and you and I click and we have that good chemistry, like, I'm not opposed to having a friendship. But I didn't want a relationship. I wasn't looking for that or anything. And me saying, yeah, okay, we can have we can go out for coffee, or we can go out to lunch, like a lunch date. That's different. Like, I can go and have a lunch date with my friend, Maritza. You know, that doesn't mean I'm dating her, right? So, but men think totally different, and they take things so to a whole different level. And maybe that's another topic that we'll talk about. I digress. And so, from that experience, I learned never to ignore my gut. I said, you know what? If I get a gut feeling about something, I'm going to go with it, because your gut never fails you. It never misleads you. And it's there for a reason. God gave you that for a reason, right? And have you noticed that if when you don't listen to it, something bad happens? Had I listened to it, I wouldn't have gone through all of that. And not to say that that marked me and that traumatized me or anything like that, but in the moment, I was like, who does he think he is? Like, I've never had anybody treat me like that. And I never want to have anybody treat me like that. And no one will ever treat me like that. But yeah, so I was thinking about that when I was watching that episode of the Real. Has that ever happened to you? And how did you handle it? Would you have handled it the same way as me? Oh, and by the way, after after that, I still had to go to school, and I know people will ask me. I would call La Base and I would tell them not to send him, to send me someone else. And that's how I was able to get away from him, because he was crazy. But anyway, so it's time for our question. Um, let's see what question is gonna. Maybe I should start from the beginning, from the first page. Let's see what the first question is. The first question of this book is, what is your idea of perfect happiness? So, my idea of perfect happiness would have to be financially independent, and to surround myself with my loved ones, to spend time with my loved ones. That is the perfect idea of happiness for me. Financial independence would mean that I wouldn't have to struggle for anything. And I'm not saying have a lot of money to go shopping and all this. I mean, that's great and everything, but I think that for me, financial independence would mean that I can pay for my condo or my mortgage off before the 30 years, right? Because it's a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So I would pay it off way before, and be able to save the money that I would have spent on mortgage. I would save that money, and 2 or 3 times a year take an amazing vacation. And I don't mean a vacation maybe within the States, but I would take a European vacation for sure once a year. Or international. I say international trip once a year, maybe a 2 week international vacation. That would be awesome anywhere in the world, because the world is so big. Years ago, I remember my aunt used to tell me, Jessica, how come you always travel to Florida? And I was like, because I like it. And I would go see my cousin, right? And she'd be like, the world is so big, you can go somewhere else. And I was like, no, I'm good with Florida. But she was so right. This woman, let me tell you, I love her. She's traveled the world 2 and 3 and 4 times over. So those are my goals. And then I would say that, I would be able to make sure that my future is secure. So I wouldn't have to depend on Social Security or my pension. Yeah. So financial independence would be awesome. If I can secure my future, that would be, oh my goodness. I mean, those are my goals. That's one. And then spending time with my loved ones, because you just never know. Tomorrow's not promised. Things can happen overnight. Like in a blink of an eye, things can happen. You can lose everything, or you can lose a loved one, or something can happen to a loved one and you're not near them. I don't know. Just spending time with my loved ones. I think that that's something that I've learned to value more and more throughout the years as I've gotten older, and that is definitely my perfect idea of happiness. If I can have my loved ones close, especially my twin, because he is everything to me. I love him, and my mom and my dad. Yeah. So, what about you? What is your idea of your perfect happiness? What does that look like to you? And are you struggling with finding your happiness? Are you planning, or have goals towards your perfect happiness? Like, tell me about it. So if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you're new to my channel, I post these videos. Now, this week, I've been posting every day on different topics that affect women. And tomorrow, I am going to brunch with my mom, and I'll try to post one tomorrow as well. But if I don't, I will see you Monday. Thank you for stopping by and spending time with me. It's always a pleasure, and we'll see each other soon. Good night.